Hello everybody, you are tuned into Breakfast Central. It is such a pleasure to kick off this wonderful Friday morning with you, and we get straight into the impact. This is where we delve into conversations that of course impact you wherever you are on the African continent. Our topic today is all about advertising creatives and their impact on the narrative or the image of the continent. So our continent's image in the media is often distorted and one-dimensional in a view which sees the continent only through a prism of war, disease, poverty, starvation, and corruption. So the single story that is a failure to represent Africa fairly and in a balanced way has had massive effect on many African youths over the years, and they're eager to change the conversation using their creative energies. So nobody is pretending that Africa's many serious problems should be played down or ignored. However, the rest of the world and Africans themselves need to hear the good news and stories as well, and that's where those who create the narratives used to sell those great things happening in Africa come in, and the young advertising professionals are taking up this space. Now, these exceptional young innovators and disruptors in African marketing communications business today produce content for local and international clients using latest services such as user integration, user experience design, content creation and marketing, impact measurement, issue tracking, and online consumer promotions. A lot of technical terms that we hope to get into today. They've also excelled among other young advertising professionals who are breaking ground across Africa. Discussing this vibrant industry is Sheyi Owolawi, who's an assistant creative director at DDB Advertising Agency right here in Lagos. He will share with us his creative process on how they translate briefs to execution. Good morning, bright and early start. Before we came on air, we were talking about how this is the production life, the creative cycle, crack of dawn. Tell me what your process is, on a production day and on a non-production day. What goes into being a creative director?
All right, so it's an interesting mix. It's like follow your dream. That's exactly what it is. That's what it is. And then following your dreams, you don't understand that there are lots of things that come with it. There's a lot of sacrifices, long hours. You can't help that. But the great thing is that being a creative is that you can't turn it off.
No, you can't. That's
even
true.
While you're on roads, where you're in traffic, you're drawing inspiration from everything around you. There's a story to tell across every touch point. So how crazy Lagos is an opportunity. It's for you to glean from it and tell that story in a way that connects with people and where they won't forget, and it will be relatable. Right?
Okay. I love that you're talking about telling stories in the way that connects with people, because in the preamble, as I was setting the scene for this conversation, I talked a lot about how Africa is projected. Now I also want to add to that and make a correction and say I think we've moved a long way away from us only being poverty and disease. Look at where our fashion, our music is taking us, and also locally you find that people have started projecting their reality. From your industry, how much of reality and perception are you forced to balance in communicating brands, African brands?
So that's a constant dilemma we have to face every day. So a brand will believe, this is how I should speak, this is who I am. And then you being a creative consultant, you're like, this is who the people are. Think of the consumer. Think of the last person who is going to see a million other products on the shelf and decide to go with yours. But we have to tell stories that relate directly to the consumers. So you don't think of your product, your service, you think of the people. So whatever content we're putting out there it has to connect with the people. And if we think about it today, in this very age and time, everyone is like a lean, mean, creative content machine. Right? Everybody's putting something out there, the way it relates to themselves, the way it relates to their friends, the way it relates to their parents, their moms, and the way it relates to us as a continent and as a people. That is very, very important. So every day, our job is to fight for what we believe the consumer, the people, the African people, the Nigerian person, that it connects in a way that it's inexplicable.
Okay. But how, what are the factors that we use in saying, okay, this is how I gauge that a message connects with someone? What goes into that mix?
So the interesting thing is now it's the digital age, and everyone will say, oh yeah, you could use artificial intelligence, you could use different things to gauge how people feel. Sure, you could use data science. Data science helps you, any communication you put out there or that you want to put out there, it can help you dictate, oh yeah, the colors are right, people would love it. The messaging, oh yeah, just looking at user content online. This is what people are saying. This is how people say things, and they would connect with it. But in truth, it's just from talking to people or listening to people, which is the most important part about it. So one thing we've constantly done these days is, before anything goes out there, we test it with the people. How do you feel about it? If I go back to some campaign we did for one of the telco brands last year, the entire campaign was pretty much created by kids.
Interesting.
So you wanted to create something for kids. Most times in advertising, everybody, the creative directors, the copywriters, the art directors, the designers, the strategists, thinks that this is what we should say. This is what the kids want to hear. This is what they want to. They want everybody to believe that this is all they are possessed about. But in truth, we gave this to them. We're like, oh yeah, so if something was being done for you, what do you want it to sound like? From the musical beats, that was even the most powerful. Almost every person beyond a certain age didn't like the music. And these kids were like, oh, this is exactly what we want. This is the kind of music that speaks to us. This is how we want it to be, something that has a bit of bounce to it, so we can move to it. And
all the professionals hadn't.
All the professionals did not, had zero knowledge of that.
Wow.
And when this campaign was done and it was played for them, these kids actually stood up and clapped.
Oh wow!
Kids
no,
doing that.
Successful. Yes,
and that's the point. If we had done it from our own perspective, our own years of experience, which has made us see things in a certain way, we miss out on telling the authentic story that connects to the people.
So now I want to pick your brain for free. Thank goodness there's no consultation fee to this. What is it that, and I know to say an African is such a vague term, right? So shall we look at a millennial? A millennial African, that's still vague, but at least it narrows it down a little bit. What is it that they're looking for right now? Because we're literally bogged down at the moment with every single person right now is changing the African narrative. Everybody is, telling the African story my way. This is the song that everybody is singing, from somebody sitting in London to sitting in New York, somebody sitting in Johannesburg. But in your experience, what is it that the African millennial is looking for right now? Is it the gloss and the pomp of Instagram? Is it the gra-gra of Twitter? Is it the, what is it exactly?
So, if I'm being honest, it's a mix.
Okay.
It's like there is constant need to, so we are made up of certain, so some days it is the glam and gloss, some other days it is the savagery of the Twitter line. But in truth, it's more of authenticity, if we take it that way.
Okay.
It's who, so the millennial, the millennial is still in constant search of who he or she really is and how everyone sees him or her. And the need to succeed, to do a little bit more.
So aspiration is still...
It's just that. Okay. It's very, very important. And that's some way where some brand managers get it right. They say, oh yeah, my product, my service has to be aspirational. That the bit of aspiration is still very, very important for us as a people. And that's why the four-letter word hope is it's so important. And because we believe we can push things, we can do better, we will do better. And that the need to always feel that void of, oh yeah, that little nudge, you can do better, you can. But most times now, we could get lost in the glam and gloss.
Because aspiration has become so vague now.
So everybody kind of lives on social media and refusing to understand the fact that although it works for lots of brands, that everybody is this way, but in truth, we still narrow down to authenticity. Who am I? Who am I really? Is this my story? Is this who I am? Is this does this come from what my grandmother, my grandfather, my mother would want to talk about? How they would want to reflect and talk about me? And the Nigeria they had, the Nigeria I have, but what have I done with the Nigeria I have, or the Africa I have right now? So
that's powerful, and I love that you're asking. Okay, well, what we're asking these questions, this introspection. What have I done for the Nigeria I have, or the Africa I have? And in your work as a communications professional, ultimately, or communication space, how much of a responsibility, I'll also call it a burden, do you feel you have in executing a brief for a client in a way that communicates with people, and then there's also that you know, feeling that actually we also ultimately want to start building a story that makes Africa look a certain way. Is this something you consider, or is just the client brief and making sure the product gets to the right person, you know, the be all and end all of the process?
So interestingly enough, the client's brief is a madness we have to live with. Yes. But in truth, to find fulfillment in this job, because it's long hours, you need to find other things that matter a lot more. Right? So in the mindset of that, so as advertisers, what we constantly do, I was lucky enough to have lots of mentors, lots of people that I shape aside focusing on what the client wants, but aside, what do you want as a young Nigerian? Okay, and what story do you want the world to see about you? Yes. So what almost all agencies or almost all creative organizations do these days is to make sure that there's an internship, a mentorship system in place that helps young people, even right from the second year in schools. They come into the organization, they have practical experience, but not practical experience that just focuses on just what the client wants. We make sure it is something they want to tell as a story.
Oh, interesting.
A personal project.
Okay. But I mean, that also makes business sense.
Yeah, well, it makes sense for also for the individual at the end of it, because it doesn't make sense for everyone to come into the building every day and just do what the business wants. True. What they want is also important. So if there's something we have a mantra at DDB, which is that unleashing the hidden potential within anyone and everyone. So it's not...
And you're practicing it. It's not just, you know, words written on a profile.
It's what you want as an individual, as a young person. What is it you're interested in? What matters to you? And that we allow you to do that. So that freedom. So if you look at the things culturally, sometimes the African culture and how you can't speak up to authority, you have to. It's non-existent within creative organizations. It should be, and that's what everyone tries to practice, and that's what we practice. So giving people the liberty, the freedom to speak up how they feel, what they believe. It's very, very important. That's how we allow them, or we will constantly
build from that place. Sheyi Owolawi, this has been incredible. Thank you so much. I wish we had more time, because you're so engaging and so informed. But I sure do hope that we can catch up with you again to have more conversations similar to this. All right.
Thank you very much.
All right. There you have it, Sheyi Owolawi. I mean, we really dug into that. And I love how we close that conversation. You know, the focus may not necessarily be on what the output of communications agencies and advertising agencies is in terms of their work. However, we look at the culture and the kind of people that they're molding and putting back into society, and that is the true African narrative.